Oh, I know, especially coming from Dolphins fans and that weird crossover of Bama fans that are also Dolphins fans. They're going to get mad at me. You're going to see the dislikes are pretty high on this video, I'm sure. The comments as well won't be great, but oh well. Somebody's got to say it. Because it's true. Tua's about to be a bust. And the Dolphins have nobody to blame but themselves for this. This is just the epitome of stupidity on so many different levels. And it may feel like I'm picking on a young man while he's down because Tua suffered the rib injury and he's on IR, so he'll be out a few weeks. That's not really the case, though. If you really think this is an indictment or a statement against Tua, then you're just choosing to not listen to the rest of what I'm saying in this video. And that's the reality of it. Because the reality is that the Dolphins are showing you how not to do it. The Dolphins are showing you that they don't deserve the props that they've gotten. The Dolphins are showing you that you really shouldn't have that much confidence in them and their ability to grow, cultivate, and develop Tua's talents, skills, protect him, put in the best possible situation to succeed, any of that. They deserve no benefit of the doubt because at no point in time, since the beginning of 2020, have they shown you an ability to do that. It's organizational malfeasance at the highest levels. If Tua's a bust, it has less to do with him being injury prone, less to do with what he can or cannot do, and significantly more to do with what his head coach, Brian Flores, and his general manager, Chris Grier, failed to do, which was to protect him and help him. Like, this goes back to last year. And I was heavily critical of Brian Flores and should have been, and more people should have been. The way he handled that situation between Fitzpatrick and Tua was dumb, counterproductive, and what the hell did it accomplish? The Miami Dolphins were in a position to maybe get into the playoffs, win double-digit games, and guess what? They did win double-digit games. And what happened? They still didn't make the effing playoffs. So, you don't start the season with Tua as the starting quarterback, you go with Fitzpatrick. But then when you're 3-3, you go to Tua. But then after a couple of games, you kind of do this goddamn yo-yo act where it's Tua's in, but then you bring in Fitzpatrick. Tua's in, but you bring in Fitzpatrick. Tua's in, but you bring in Fitzpatrick. What the hell are you doing? It is not how you manage a young quarterback, especially in today's NFL. And especially in an NFL where it is less costly to miss on a young quarterback in terms of the salary cap when they're under their rookie scale contract. You want to play these guys early because you'll want to find out what the F you have. And you look at the two other guys that were drafted in the top 6 at that position in the 2020 draft. Burrow started more than half of the year before he got hurt. The Bengals had enough belief to say, you know what, we don't think he's a bust. I think he's mid, but he's not a bust. He's just like a Baker Mayfield type. He's good, not great. Guy you can win games with, not many you can win because of when it really matters. But not a bust. The Bengals knew that you need to build around him. The Chargers, who benefited from the Miami Dolphins' stupidity in the first place, frankly, from a talent evaluation standpoint, thinking that Tua was a better prospect than Herbert, was clown shit in and of itself. But Herbert goes into a situation with the Chargers, even though Anthony Lynn was an idiot initially with this, eventually he had the medical mishap with Tyrod Taylor, allegedly medical mishap, and now Herbert comes in, he plays most of the rest of the year, and guess what? The Chargers find out that he can be that dude. Meanwhile, you got the Dolphins fiddle fucking around trying to figure out whether or not Tua's the guy, but they're going to keep yanking the rug out from under him. Does nothing but destroy a young quarterback's confidence. Does nothing to help teach him how to work through adversity, because if he's always going to be looking over his shoulder and being afraid to make mistakes, then you know what's going to happen? He's actually going to play worse under pressure. He's going to make more mistakes, which is going to shatter his confidence even more. So Brian Flores ran a TED Talk, whatever the hell you want to call it, a masterclass on how the hell to not manage a rookie quarterback in his development last year. So that's organizational malfeasance number one. Number two, you come into this year. You know that you don't know what you've gotten to. Nobody does at this point. We can all think and believe what we want to think and believe, but the reality is he didn't play all season. Sometimes you saw him in spot duty, frankly. You don't know. Not enough game action, not enough of a body of work to let you know one way or another. So you come into this season not knowing. But what you do know is that you drafted him with the 5th overall pick in 2020. You know you passed on Justin Herbert to take him. You also know that you traded out of a place like 3rd overall where you could have drafted a Trey Lance, a Justin Fields, a Mac Jones, or even when you traded back down, could have still drafted a Justin Fields or a Mac Jones because you apparently believed in Tua. So you do these things, you would expect then you're going to invest heavily around helping Tua. You're going to do everything you can to support Tua. And the reality is, you did a piss poor job of that too. Like, look at their frickin' running game. Myles Gaskin, wasn't he a former 7th round pick? He was that round pick for a reason. Nice rotational role player guy, not a big time featured back. Not a game changing back. He's just not best in rotational spot duty. Am I wrong, Dolphins fans? You know I'm freaking not. So you go into this season without a clearly established kind of like bell cow featured star type of back. Okay? You maybe don't have to have one, but if you don't have that, then you better have that impact talent in other places. You invest the 6th overall pick in Jalen Waddle. Okay. You're betting on the speed, the athletic upside, the connection from Alabama. Get it. Understand it. But then you're bringing in a Will Fuller, and even when you talk about he hasn't played for me, blah, 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 whatever the hell. The fact is you're bringing in a Will Fuller that even when he is healthy, or he's not getting popped off for some PED suspension, you know you're getting 9 to 11 games out of him. That's not exactly making a massive investment in an important piece of your offense. And Devontae Parker is nice, but he's not a game changer. He's not a difference maker. Like, you look at that core of receiving talent. They are mid to below average. Again, not a great position to put a young quarterback in. But worst and most egregious of all is that piss poor ass, pathetic ass offensive line that the Miami Dolphins has. And it's not just a this year thing. This is a year over year trend for the better part of the past decade. And the numbers and the analytics back that up. And you don't even need the numbers and analytics to see just how absolutely pathetic their pass protection has been for Tua this year. There ain't no way in hell, I don't give a shit who you are. When you've got less than 2 seconds as a quarterback, you're fucked. When teams don't have dreadful fear about what you got on the outside, what you got in the backfield, they don't respect your weapons, they don't trust your weapons because they know those weapons aren't great. They know they can come with the heat a little bit. And by God, with this sieve of a freaking offensive line, it ain't going to take much to rattle to his cage and get him hurt and fucking rattle him and freaking get in his face all day and disrupt any rhythm the Dolphins offense would hope to have. And what's so bad about this is it's not like the Miami Dolphins haven't invested, draft capital, etc., into the offensive line. They have. Austin Jackson was a first-round pick last year. At this point in time, he looks like an Eric Flowers level bust. He's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Eichenberg was a 2nd round pick this year. He's bad. Dieter, I think, was a 3rd round pick a couple years ago. Bad. Solomon Kindley was a mid-round pick a couple of years ago. Bad. Like, pretty much across the board on this offensive line for the most part, it's really bad, but they have invested, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks in this unit. So it's less about the lack of investment, and it's about the fact that, A, they either can't evaluate talent to save their life, which some of the results and returns may indicate they don't know what the fuck they're doing in that way, but B, especially, points to the fact that they can't develop the talent that they draft, which might be the even bigger, more egregious concern. That's a direct reflection of coaching. The front office, the scouting department, the general manager, if they can't draft worth of shit, that's one thing. Coaching staff, you kind of leave out of that a little bit, although they certainly have a voice and may have some say-so. But when you get these guys, and especially like some of these high notable picks, and they still suck, and they don't develop, and they don't grow, that's where you look at the coaching staff, and you say, this is malfeasance of the highest order. Because I'm sorry, if you look at this situation right now with Miami, there is absolutely nothing that you could go off of other than the delusion of hope or wanting to believe that Tua is going to break out of this and become a big star in Miami. You have nothing to go off of. And I don't blame Tua. It's an organizational systemic failure. They totally screwed up how they handled him last year. They've put him into a spot with mid to below mid weapons around him on offense and an offensive line that is a complete drizzling shits. All the while with a head coach that I certainly don't believe is going to be fully believing into it. And let's be clear here. Some of that crap about Deshaun Watson and the Dolphins having some trade interest may have come from the Houston Texans, may have come from Deshaun Watson's camp. But let's not pretend like those are totally bullshit rumors. Those were there for a reason. There's at least some type of smoke there. May not be a full blazing inferno and fuego fire, but there's something there. Again, a terrible situation for a young quarterback to be in, where you think anytime you make a mistake, it's going to only amplify the pressure. You have no opportunity to learn on the job, no opportunity to grow or improve. You don't have the time from your offensive line. Your weapons on the outside freaking suck. Your running game sucks. You have no game breakers, no difference makers to play with right now. You have a head coach that doesn't believe in you, a general manager that either A, doesn't believe in you, or B, even worse, doesn't know how the hell to build around you, to help you, to support you. And with all the draft pick capital the Dolphins have had the past couple of years, that's just flat out ass pathetic. You might look at this as a situation where you point to the Miami Dolphins and what they've done the past year or two and hold them up as a standard of how not to handle a young quarterback and a situation for a young quarterback for a generation to come. Like, even if Tua had truly transcendent physical talents, he doesn't, but let's pretend he did, his chances for success would still be minimal. You really trust Brian Flores with this guy? You really trust Chris Grier to put the right talent and pieces around him to help this young man, to give him every opportunity to succeed? Why? Because again, you have absolutely no body of work, no evidence that shows that this is the case. It's still very early for Tua, and maybe Miami figures it out, and maybe Tua figures it out, and Tua can have the most important ability, which is availability. The rib injury isn't his fault. Like, he gets clocked like that, like, that's the fault of the offensive line that the incompetent general manager put together. But I'm saying, like, the early returns on this do not look good. And unless something changes dramatically with Miami, we're going to be talking about in another year or two that Tua was a bust, and trying to debate whether it was truly that Tua was a bust or was a systematic organizational failure around him. And at this point in time, I certainly point more to the second one than I do the first one. You can't blame a young quarterback entirely for failing if he is set up for failure for the very beginning. And all the Miami Dolphins have done to me since they've drafted him in 2020 is set Tua up for failure. Please tell me how I'm wrong here. Please tell me how you think they've done good by him or done well by him. Please tell me how they've set Tua up for success now and in the future. Because I would love to hear it. Because by God, that would be really rich. Because that would let me know that apparently the crack and the coke is still rolling around like crazy in South Beach. There ain't no way in hell on the planet we call Earth, reality, that you can make that statement.